Thanks, Cale. Just like to thank everybody for joining us for Hardball Chats again with Premier Data. I'm Simon McPhee, and tonight we're very, very lucky to have Paul Carrigan, aka Cags, to most of us. Paul's had an esteemed footy career, if you like, coaching 30 years plus in ranging from senior footy through to junior footy, elite junior footy. He's now head of footy at Hampton Rovers. He's played his own footy. He played footy at Vermont, Doncaster. He played under-19s at Essendon. He's been interleague coach. He's been development coach in the NAB League. I can't say much else. In fact, just recently became a life member at his third club, which is a significant achievement. So I just want to say welcome, Cags.
Thanks, Macca. It's nice to be involved. It's nice to. I've watched a few of the Premier Data and admired what the Premier Data team have been doing for community footy and elite level footy. And I watched yours and Jacko's and one or two others. And when Corny touched on last week, the chance to pop along and say g'day and share some of my memories and look at some of the things that we've implemented over the years, not just with coaching, but with admin at football clubs. I thought it was a good opportunity to set a few things straight and get a few perspectives out there. Maybe we can, if anyone takes anything from tonight, that'd be great.
Mate, well, it's interesting when the boys said you were coming on and they asked me to interview you, I thought, oh, fantastic. I know you well, we're mates, but there's so much I don't know about you as well with regards to what you've done and what you've achieved. So I was quite excited to get you on, mate. Let's start with now. I'm going to ask you about something, Paul, and I know in quiet moments together you may talk this up to be better than it actually was, or it might have been as good as you said it was. But your playing experience, talk about it. Let's talk about it. You've two flags at VFL under-19s is nothing to be sneezed at. Do you want to talk us through your playing experience
there were no flags, Macca, at VFL under-19s. There was no, look, I was growing up, I was a late developer, smallish body boy at Vermont Football Club. The beauty of growing up at Vermont Footy Club was that you got to see how it was done, and we all pushed each other very, very hard. I had a mentor called George Gislingham that coached me in under-16s and under-18s, and I guess if there's one thing I don't share with many people is that I was a little bit bullied at high school back in the day. And a large chunk of me taking on coaching and was basically to stand up for the young fella that struggled to stand up for himself. As I got older and wiser and a bit more confident in my persona, in my personal self, it become quite apparent that coaching was for me. I loved the way George went about coaching us and making sure that every boy, not just the top bracket of boys, most coaches have their favourites, but it took me quite some time to work through that. So from had a couple of pre-seasons at Essendon, and coming off the back of you might be referring to the premierships of Essendon in 84, 85, Macca, going and doing pre-season and playing quite a few trial games and a couple of games there. Early days was unbelievable experience. There was no draft back in the day. The under-18s train, or under-19s as it was, trained with the reserves and seniors. I was part of a group that trained out at Croydon Leisure Centre, and 2 days a week and 1 day a week we go to Windy Hill, jump in some taxis on the way home, and catching a taxi home with a guy like Paul Vanderhaar was quite enlightening. After he'd had a few beers with some of the directors of Essendon Footy Club and some of the stakeholders, etc. So I ended up joining my cousin at Doncaster East Football Club, and that started a lifelong journey to try and get Doncaster East to play First Division. It was always my dream to watch Doncaster East play Vermont in Div 1, and I'm proud to say that my football club, I saw that happen halfway through this year. So it took the best part of near on 30 years to get there. but I did see it happen this year. And with about 3 minutes to go, Donny East was in front, and the mighty Vermont Football Club got over, kicked 3 goals in 4 minutes, and wrapped the game up. But look, I noticed that there was a significant lack of junior players coming through from Beverly Hills Junior Football Club to play with us guys as senior players at Donny East. So we shared the same facility, Zerby's Reserve in East Doncaster. We played on the Saturday, juniors played on the Sunday. Myself and a good mate decided to co-coach an under-15 team, and we took it on in, I think it was 1988. And I've had 1 year off coaching or administration of coaching ever since. So, yeah, you learn a lot along the way. I had a mentor, Keith Burns, who was coaching Northern Knights at that point in time. And I said to Keith Burns, "What's your number one KPI, Keith?" And he said, to get as many players as drafted out of the Northern Knights. And I probably let him down by saying this, and I know I pushed this across to several other people at CAC, now NAB clubs at Eastern and Oakley Chargers and Sandringham. Jacko Kornberg being online at the moment, being one of those. And I said, geez, that's pretty sad, Keith, that your number one KPI is to develop your top 7 or 8 players to go and play AFL football. I would have thought it would have been, make everyone a better person or make everyone a better footballer or win a premiership at that level. But the more I saw it in it, and the more I learned about it, and the more I played my role within certain clubs, it became quite apparent that it is about that, and might come across as cutthroat, but it is what it is, and that makes for exciting times. And we've just experienced through 10 Dragon Boys being drafted in the last 4 or 5 days.
I'm going to take you back, Cags, to you first started coaching, and a lot of us start coaching while we're playing. I mean, that's just how it happens. You're involved in community clubs, and they can't find a coach or whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
You were playing footy when you were coaching. Were you playing football when you started coaching?
Yeah, I was playing first at Doncaster East. We were playing Div 3 Eastern Football League. So I went from a Div 1 club at Vermont to a Div 3 team to go and play with my cousin Glenn.
Yep.
And as I said, it became apparent that there wasn't a real strong connection with our junior football club, being Beverly Hills Junior Footy Club. Had, got an enormous amount of talent that's come through there. Mark Murphy, Christian Petrarca, the Phillips boys at the moment, John Peter Budge, Paul Ruse. So a huge amount of talented guys that have come through that club. And yes, I was playing, so I would have been 20 years of age when I helped a guy called Jeff Daish in 1987 with the under-17s and try to build the bridge with the junior footy club. The junior club and the senior club had separated years earlier. There was a bit of a idiot type, yobbo type scenario with the senior football club that the junior football club didn't want to know too much about. So, it took a number of years for good people to get on board the senior club, early to mid 90s. And then we started taking it quite serious. There was a guy called Barry Higgins who had a couple of young sons in the junior club. He'd had a bit of experience at Wattle Park Football Club in the Ammos. He came across with a loyal band of mates, and a couple of the mums of those guys got involved running canteens, running the bar, etc. And Doncaster East started to take off. We got more and more junior players through the door. A mate of mine concentrated on coaching the under-18s, Dallas Van Unen, and I was assisting and become head of football at Doncaster East and Beverly Hills Junior Football Club. So not only was I coaching, I was running the football department. At about 26, 27, was coach of the year in the Yarra League, which was the Doncaster District Junior Football League before it became the Yarra League in 94, 95. Was coaching interleague under 16s, under 17s from 93 through to 97. So, yeah, it was, I guess the thing that that if there's a message I can get across to any junior aspiring coaches out there or anyone that might be online right now, the worst thing you do is when you start off as a young player yourself, you have a lot of dreams and aspirations, but you try not to put 90% of your time into your top 10 players or even your top 5. And I'll put both hands up and say I was highly guilty of that from the start. And it probably took me the best part of 7 or 8 years before I understood that all 22, if not put more effort into your bottom dozen players, because they're the ones that are going to, they're going to make sure that you've got a team for the longevity of the course of the journey, number one, and they're going to enjoy it more. The better players are going to get a kick regardless.
Yeah, look, couldn't agree more, mate. And I'll touch on that in a minute. There was a question I had on the back of that. You started your coaching career while you were playing. I want to know if that helped you improve as a player, coaching others.
Without a doubt. Just for the simple fact of the matter that I was coaching a junior team, and you needed to be on point the next day. You needed to be, bright-eyed. You needed to be. So it was basically just forcing me to go home early from the football club and not being out to super late. It made me think about the game a lot more. It made me think about the strategic movement and ball movement. It made me look after my own health. I would say I probably had my best seasons when I was really thinking about footy in probably 94, 95, 96, when I was mid to late 20s, where I was coaching at a pretty decent level and coaching interleague and some of those kids going on and playing. It was around about the time where Oakley Chargers came into the TAC in 95. And I was making sure that a lot of our guys were pretty well prepped for that. So being a rat bag myself in and around those boys wasn't really an option.
Well, mate, you've just you may have answered this question in some way, shape or form, but you've touched on a couple of philosophies that you have adhered to, or you've offered as advice to other young coaches. Can you talk more about your coaching philosophies and initiatives that, whether it be in your role now or previous roles, that you've lived by with regards to building a club and building a culture?
I think relationships is key. Being incredibly transparent, not just with the players, but also the parent group, making sure that everyone's got a full understanding of what we're trying to do. If I could, in the early days of being on the committee at Hampton Rovers, and there's probably, Macca, I'm probably steering slightly away from the breeze of where you want to go, but the early days of Hampton Rovers, we tried to be everything to everyone, and there was a real heavy drive trying to get the club to go down the path of grading and making sure that every child is in their silo of development, not future development, but current silo of development, making sure that, and I was a big advocate for it. Some people didn't share the view, didn't share the passion. A few others did. Brett Williams is one of those that, and Phil Burke were advocates of change. To get back to your point, it's important that every child is understood, every child is heard. There is no bullying factor in any team I've ever coached since the early to mid 90s. Having suffered, as I said from the top of the cast, having suffered bullying at high school, there is not a boy that I've coached that doesn't understand, and where I've seen it, I've stamped it out real quick. The fundamentals of the game have never changed. You and I have discussed this many times. So there's a huge focus on skill, football understanding. When we've got it, they've got it, and when it's in dispute, those options have never changed. And hopefully, let's hope they never do, for the betterment of the sport. Relationships, having fun. And when you probably got this question geared for me, Macca, but when I was asked, I stepped away from the committee with a lot of frustration. Change was needed, and this group of other people came in and created some change, and they approached me to come back on the committee. And Brett Williams and a lot of my close mates, Ash Roberts, Joey Giblin, encouraged me to do it and said it has to be done. And I was given a whiteboard effectively to redesign how the modern Hampton Rovers might look. And you know, there was a lot of soul searching. And what we did was we created a club mantra of how we wanted to look and how we wanted to behave. And we come up with certain words, and the words are passion, mateship, fun and respect. And two ladies on the committee that one lady has a daughter going through the system said, look, mateship might be a little hard for the girls. We want to, you know, we want more female participation. So this was 5 years ago. So we talked around and we threw around different terms of what mateship might look like. So we ended up with teamwork replacing mateship, and our club mantra became and is 6 years later, passion, teamwork, fun, respect. And everything that we talk about in all models of that format stem back to one of those 4 words. So when there's an education process, when we've got it, we must be passionate in using the football. When they've got it, we must be passionate in making sure that we apply enough pressure for them to turn it over, or we get physical to the point where we turn the football over. We must work as a team. We must work as a team and be good at being a good teammate first and foremost, and then have fun whilst we're doing it. We need to enjoy it, and then there must be ultimate respect. The respect needs to be for self, number one, first and foremost, for yourself, for your teammate, for the umpire, for your coaches, and for the opposition. And I'm pretty proud to say that most of our teams along the journey at Hampton, when we see that dickhead element, if you like, or bullying element, I come down pretty hard on the coaches that allow it to fester. And if it's festering too long, we'll have a chat with some coaches. And if it festers beyond a warning or two, we have in the past actually asked a coach to step aside and to think really closely about what he's doing and what his intent is. It's not about always winning. It's about how you win and how you're respected in the short term and the long term.
Yeah, look, mate, it's pretty evident to me. I've had the benefit of my short time in Melbourne being involved in 2 junior footy clubs, and what I've seen from Hampton Rovers is nothing short of, you know, brilliant, to be honest, the way it's run, the passion that you run the club with, the passion the volunteers have for their teams and the club and the parents is actually outstanding. Mate, I just want to, there's a question I want to ask. I'm going off, I've got a script here, Cale, but I'm just going off it, so I'm just letting you know that. One thing you talked about is a teammate. I want to know what constitutes a good teammate for you.
A good teammate, someone that first of all knows how to enjoy themselves. There's a serious element to anything, and it depends on what level, I guess. Not everyone's born to play Div 1 football. Some people are in it for different reasons. Young ladies are in it for first, second, and third. Their motivation for playing Australian rules football is to be with friends. As their enjoyment and skill level progresses to an elite type of format, then that friendship base expands, but they also want to push themselves and enjoy at a different level. So if we're just asking at a standard club level, what does a teammate mean to me? Someone that will have my back, someone that'll be honest with me, not brutally honest. I guess depending on what age group you're playing, a brutally honest teammate in under 10s, under 11s, under 12s might offend, and that's where that bullying element might come in, and we don't want that. So if anyone's going to be real honest with you, you want it to be your coach or your assistant coach, someone that's going to help me enjoy the process of learning, someone that's not scared to share the ball with me, no matter whether I'm a very good player or I'm not such a good player. I know I've known of kids that stand back and let the elite kids come in and take the ball away. Then they don't get the ball shared, and some coaches haven't stamped that out. And it's not good for development. If the team rule is we go backwards to go sideways to go forwards, and one or two boys that because of their size and structure are allowed to continue to do 180-degree turns. I'm probably getting away from the answer of your question here, Macca, but someone that enjoys my company and I equally enjoy theirs, and we're learning and developing at a similar rate.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting question, mate, and I guess from my point of view, I just wanted to know from you, for somebody who's had so much experience in footy, what encapsulates a great teammate for you? And I think you gave it to me there. You gave me someone who's honest, someone who wants to have fun and enjoy themselves, and someone who's brave enough to have a crack doing whatever it is, whether it be sharing the ball or putting their head in a hole. So,
well,
no.
at an elite level, that might be a slightly different angle to it because at the uber elite level being the fact that we're being paid a lot of money. So you push the money aside for a minute. Can we be direct with each other at that level? I'd expect that you would definitely be direct with each other. You probably need to temper it somewhat. But if someone like Scott Pendlebury says to a young fella, do X, Y, and Z, or go stand over there, or go stand over there, and if you didn't take it on board, there might be serious words, and you'd expect serious words to be spoken in the sheds later on. So, there's horses for courses at different levels within football. There's no doubt about that.
Mate, we've talked about a few different things. Let's get to the real cut and thrust of being involved in a junior club. We've all been part of it. Kale, one day. Jackson, one day you'll know what it's all about. Having kids in teams that get graded. How do you grade juniors? What's the process? How difficult has it been now that we've thrown girls into the mix? How has that changed things? And how hard can those conversations be? And maybe some examples of those tough conversations or behaviours from kids or parents that you've experienced.
I think when we were given that whiteboard for the element of change in 2015, it wasn't just about the mantra and those 4 key pillars. It was an easy process once you'd put process into place and everyone understood the transparent nature of what needs to take place. And to give you an example of that, we harbour on a one squad mentality at Hampton Rovers. So we train together. We have a squad manager for each age group. So when you've got an age group of multiple teams, it might be 2, it might be 3 in our case. In under 12s this year, it was 4 teams. We have a squad photo. We don't have individual team photos. They train together on the same night. They identify with each other. They do the warm-up together, and then they split off into their teams, relevant teams, to do their work on whatever transitioning their coach might deem necessary from one week to the next. And then they come back together and they warm down, and they'll do a little bit of a fun thing at the end of training. It might be get a boom box out and do up, down, Sally. When it says up, you push up. When it goes down, you push down. And you might go the full length of a song. You might have an Olympic sport. You might have a handball drill. Everyone might need to wear a funny hat for the warm down, and the best hat gets an award. Whatever it might be to add some excitement and a little bit of jocularity, if you like. Then we add to that. The squad manager is really important. A squad manager might act as a team manager on match day, but the squad manager will send out the one email that will keep the entire squad informed. So it might look like the Div 3 team are playing X, Y, and Z. We're wearing away shorts, and here are the players listed before the Div 1 team. So it points out to the parent group that the Div 3 team and the Div 1 boys are no different. To answer your question on how to split them up and actually grade them, The top 15 players in Div 1 will pick themselves. It's players number 15 to 25. They're the ones we need to spend the extra bit of time on. And because the SMJFL does great in the first 4 rounds, we would arm our coaches and allow our coaches to grade for the first 6 rounds. By round 7, you pretty much know your best 22 versus the next best 22. The squad manager also sends out an email after round 1 or 2 asking parents to come back and talk about, this is pre-COVID, mind you, extended family holidays, trips to Europe, Hawaii, Fiji, wherever it might be. We've got a cousin's barbecue or wedding here. Our little Johnny can't be here, here and here. What that does is it arms the coaches with that data to come back, because there might be boys that are taking extended annual leave. As you know, we joined forces with East Sandringham under 15. So we're East Sandringham Rovers under 15, 16, 17. APS then kicks in. Some of the boys we've noticed this year, 2 in particular, Arch and Joshy Docking, were good enough to play first 18. We'll have a number of boys in under 17s next year. So, communication is the key. It's not just about hard and fast, right? You're the best 22. You're the next best 22. Go to your coaches. See you later. Parents need transparency. There are expectations. Look, we all know that in the schoolyard, 2 kids are picked captains and they just go you, and you. And the kids know. They know. And that's it, whether it's under 10s or whether it's under 12s or under 17s. At the end of the day, we need a transparent process, and we arm our coaches with that process.
Kags, you just touched on talent pathways briefly before. You would have seen a bit. You talked about being around when Oakley Chargers just jumped in, and then we've gone through it's developed. We've gone into the TAC to the NAB League to where we are today, and then COVID's hit. Jackson, you can't say anything, mate. Kags might give you a whack here, but we'll just wait and see. I want to know how the junior pathways have developed and changed, and then maybe your thoughts on are we preparing them well enough for that step up to NAB League, and then from NAB League to AFL, and obviously the challenges that COVID have thrown at us this year. Are the pathways how have they changed, and are they doing their job?
Oh, well, where they started from, very much inception, and they were learning on the run. When I was at Beverly Hills and speaking to guys at Eastern, speaking to guys and there wasn't a lot of transparency. There was a lot of backroom dealings, and which got eliminated, and that's a real good thing. I'll give an example. I was a boy I was coaching, won't name names, but he was taken into a room at Eastern Rangers and introduced to the general manager of Vermont Football Club, and they tried to sign him on the spot to go and join a Div 1 team versus play at Doncaster East, where he was playing under 18s for us. And that happened several times. I had to go to the then general manager of Eastern Rangers and basically say, come on, guys, this is silly. That puts everyone at a disadvantage. I can categorically state that now those type of actions don't happen. You never hear a Sandringham Dragon, although we all thought Bo Morris had been pretty well looked after over the years. But you would never hear anyone drag a boy from any club, call it Club X, to go and introduce to a senior coach of a A grade or B grade amateur team, or Southern Metro team, or Noble Park, and flaunt money and gifts. To my knowledge, it doesn't happen. I've never seen it in my time. I've been with Dragons as a junior coach, 14s, 15s, 16s, and then St Kilda Next Gen for the first inaugural 2 years of Next Gen. I never heard any of those stories. To answer your question, from when my time at Oakley Chargers, still very raw, very club-like, very there was an element of elite football, and that was dare I say, because the players themselves were the best crop of kids and they were all pushing each other. Today, having watched closely Sandringham Dragons for the best part of 7 or 8 years, and watching the boys that have gone through it, sitting on the hill, watching the Josh Kellys, Salem's, Tarantos running around 5-6 years ago, to watching my your son's Macca, Brett Williams' son, Sebastian, my eldest. I don't think that they've wanted for too much. There's in way of education. I think COVID has dramatically hit them hard. They can't run with the numbers that they probably could 2 years ago. There was a strong element of non-APS versus APS and AGS student. It was almost a 50-50 split. Unfortunately, that split is widening a little. And it is what it is. I think they're running with a couple of different under-18 programs for bottom ages at the moment. But I think they've now shifted that back to from an under-19 competition to an under-18 with, I don't know, maybe a handful of over ages that might have missed out in last week's draft. So I couldn't fault the Dragons, and it doesn't surprise me one iota that in the last decade they've averaged 8 to 10. I mean, this year alone they've had 12 if you include Jacob and Max in the mid-season draft, and with 3 ruckmen and potential Felix Flockhart being the 4th to miss out, that's unheard of. That would never have happened in any year from one club.
Yeah, quite remarkable, really, isn't it? The numbers this year. So you're to be congratulated on that, Jacko.
Yeah, well and truly.
That's quite a significant achievement, to be honest. The one thing we talked about, we could talk about this one forever, is the private school v NAB, because essentially it's what it's turning into, isn't it? Like clubs, schools are going out there and recruiting players. I mean, one school in particular are the best at it with regards to taking kids in year 10 or 11 into APS systems.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's happening now that shouldn't be happening, or anything that should be happening that's not happening with regards to APS turning itself into?
I can only talk about Clubland, and at Clubland, what we do is we offer a reduced membership for boys that are playing their 10 rounds of APS, and that'll tap into Dragons. So the first 2 rounds of this year's home and away season for SMJFL, we had a full list in under 16s. Under 17s, we will give a reduced membership to those guys and families to play the first 2 that go away, play an APS AGS season, and then come back to Clubland and finish off the season for the last 3 or 4 rounds, including finals. To delve deeper into what they could do, I guess what I'd like to see, and I've always wanted to see, I think Jackson probably started the strong communications with some of the APS schools. I'd like to see more wealth of knowledge shared between Dragons and the private schools. I'd like to see some of that testing data filter back through to the schools where, maybe a weekly or a fortnightly call and an email through discussing maybe not your elite player, maybe not your, let's pick Josh or Josh Sin as an example. Maybe your kid that's sitting slightly outside the best 22, and how we can elevate that boy into a Dragon scenario. I think a lot of those discussions were unfolding and taking place. Maybe Macca being the Brighton Grammar first 18 coach, it might be time for you to reach out yourself and go back the other way, and make life easy for the new incumbent to take over from the great Jacko.
Well, I think you're right. I think Sandy were pretty proactive in that space. It hasn't always been the case, has it? It's been pretty the APS take themselves pretty seriously, and NAB do too, quite rightly. So it's been a little bit like that. I think that it definitely needs to be a little bit more interchangeable. I think there's opportunities personally for the NAB clubs to get school coaches in, and they probably already do it. The St. Bede's coaches and the St. Leonard's coaches and the Brighton Grammar coaches to get them in. I think there's some massive PD opportunities that some coaches, I'm sure, would be craving.
I think it's a no-brainer. I think the usage of facilities. I know, Dragons have used Parkdale secondary facilities with the basketball courts. I know they've used St. Bede's facilities. I think it makes perfect sense for Hailbury Keysborough to open their doors up, BGS to open their elite gymnasium up. If we can get more kids through these schools and break down the walls. I know, Macca, you ran some elite Sunday morning sessions that my eldest was a part of, for them to be able to go into those facilities and use those facilities. I just think it makes perfect sense, and you can use those as a tool to get people in, promote the schools, and it's a win-win for everyone at the end of the day. Sorry about the Sunday session.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, no one came on site that wasn't supposed to be there, Paul. I just want to put that on record.
Of course.
Look, Cags, that was unreal. I really enjoyed talking to you. I enjoy talking to you anyway. So it was just a good opportunity to talk to you again. I really, really want to say congratulations on your life membership, mate. Three clubs. It's remarkable. I don't think there'd be too many people in the footy community anywhere that would have achieved something as significant as that, mate. So from us here at Premier Data, we just want to say thanks for your time and congratulate you on what so far has been a sensational, how am I going to say this? Not career, a sensational gift to junior and community footy. You've just done a great job, mate. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for that, Macca. And I probably sat back and my dad said something to me. He said, 30 years. And I said, yeah, it's pretty weird. The time goes pretty quick. I'd have to say out of the 3 life memberships, the last one was the hardest one to get because there was a real speed bump in the middle along the way. But through good people like Brett Williams and another loyal band of guys, Rolfie Bergman, Miles's dad, they encouraged me all the time to keep going because they could see that it was about the kids and it wasn't about egos. It wasn't about, let's keep that mum and this group of mums together because they're in a Chardonnay drinking group, or there's a mum that takes wonderful photographs and we have to have her in the team. And it's about keeping the kids in that silo of development at the end of the day and making sure that every child, bar none, is created equal. Just on the committee, if I may, I'll just read out a couple of things. We made sure that every group was equal. We had a very simple format. We didn't overcomplicate things at the committee level and put undue pressure on coaching staff. It was a hands-on approach, and it was well documented. It must be transparent, as I've said many times, and never turn any child away. And other clubs in the local community have done that. Whoop, we've got 22. Close the books. Where we've been able to put ourselves apart from other clubs is to embrace and make sure they all come in. We fall back in line with East Sandringham. A lot of our girls have gone and played, still registered to our club. They play girls football, depending on numbers. And to answer one of your questions earlier, Mackie, you talked about the difference with girls footy. We sell more club paraphernalia, hoodies, T-shirts to the girls teams than what we do to the boys teams because they want inclusiveness. We did have some mums at the start of this year asking us about grading girls. The split second you start grading girls in football, you've lost them because 50% of them will walk away. That's the way we see it. There is enough talent out there to form some pretty talented girls teams. But look, I don't know whether I'm a sucker and that's allowed me to have 3 life memberships, Macca, or whether it's just, I don't think too much of anything. I don't play golf. I used to sail once upon a time and did a few Sydney Hobarts back in the day, and that taught a lot taught me a lot about teamwork and safety and making sure that you look after everyone, because when it gets wild, 80 mile off the coast, there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And I did that one where those 6 blokes were killed, and it's always stuck in my mind that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and committees are only as strong as their weakest link, and so whether it's elite footy or whether it's an under-9 footy team, we're all in this together. We must enjoy it first and foremost, and if you do, good things happen to good people, Mackie. You know that.
Well, mate, your passion comes through. I'm proud to call you a mate, and thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks
Always
everyone else
welcome.
for joining us too.
Good luck, Jacko. I hope your first week
Yeah.
on the training track has been great.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
We've had about 60 mils of rain in the last week, so no, it's all going well.
How's Big Levi, mate? Have you got him to do the double cobra yet?
He had the first session yesterday, so he had to run around, and no, he's a good fella.
Good luck, Jacko. We love you, mate. You know that. We're all
Thanks,
the best
mate.
with it.
Yeah, well done this year, mate. It's a huge achievement. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
See, bud.
Thank you,
Thanks,
boys.
guys.
Appreciated the chat.
Cheers, Cags.